Hello, CC World. It's now time for a lesson with Vincent van Gogh. That's how we would say it here in America. If we were in England, they say it Van Gogh, and it is originally Dutch, and so it is more like va Gogh, like you have a little something in your throat. So you can look that up on the pronunciations to hear the more accurate way to say it. But here in America, you would be correct in saying Van Gogh. All right, so there is not an artist card for him in this cycle. It is in the cycle 3. I think they shifted things around when they did the 5th edition. But nonetheless, you can get all of this little packet that we're going to go through. You can go to Facebook and grab that PDF file. Okay, so Mr. Vincent van Gogh, 1853, he was born in the Netherlands to 1890, and the end of his life was in France. He was the son of a Protestant preacher, so he was the oldest of 6 kids. In 1877, he went to England as a teacher and a lay preacher. A year later, he went to Brussels and did some short-term training as an evangelist, then eventually went to be a missionary in a poor coal mining region in southwest Belgium. Now, when he was there, so 1880, a few years later, he gave away all his worldly possessions. When this happened, the church dismissed him because they said that he was taking too literal interpretation of Christ. So we don't know all the details, but this is what sent him into some sadness. But then in 1880, the same year that he was dismissed, he found painting and just became alive again. So he only painted for 10 years from 1880 until 1890. One famous story you will probably hear about Van Gogh is about his ear, and we're going to look at some portraits in a minute. But the most recent saying is that he and another artist, Gauguin, were they were fighting with swords. I don't know if Gauguin just had a sword or Van Gogh. I don't know the details, but part of Van Gogh's ear got cut off, like just the lobe of his ear. That's supposed to be an ear with a serrated mark. So we're going to look at the self-portraits to show you where that happened. And when we're looking at these pictures, notice they're repeating, trying that same subject with different colors, different lights, and different texture. So here we have a photograph and a painting. This is a self-portrait that he did. And so we can see the strong similarities in his self-portrait here versus the actual photograph. Here's a whole series of self-portraits in chronological order. Some of these are attributed to him, meaning a few could have been done by another artist and they just weren't signed. So make sure to always sign your artwork. And you see how he's practicing the subject over and over again. By doing that, then he's increasing his skill and growing stronger as a painter. So this is a wonderful example of a great artist exploring different colors and textures and lighting, all while just repeating the same subject of himself. And if you notice down here, it's not the best copy, but down here you'll notice that he's got this white bandage over his ear. So he documented his injury and having that ear bandaged in those 2 portraits. Here we have a series of sunflowers that he did, and you can download this, like I said, and get more of the descriptions. But again, this is a great example of taking the same subject, but he is doing it with slightly different color backgrounds or adding more sunflowers. And he did more sunflowers than this, but these are some of the main series. And some of these are only slightly different. So you'd really have to study them to see the differences in that. So we're going to be looking at this again. All right, here we have Starry Night over the Rhone, and here we can see those brush strokes, how we're using the Impressionist. He was considered post-Impressionist, so after the Impressionist. One of his probably very famous ones is the Starry Nights. And you can see all of those brushstrokes through the sky. It's not smooth. You can feel like the stars swirling around. So both of these are good examples of those brushstrokes, which can sometimes be hard because we're wanting to paint and be smooth, but these are very intentional lines that are just kind of quick, thought through, but are leaving their texture on the paper. This is another famous picture, excuse me, not a picture. This is a painting of his. It's called Portrait of Dr. Gachet. And this, Mr. Vincent van Gogh was never famous during his lifetime, and he actually only sold one painting. So later, 7 years after his death, his sister-in-law sold this painting for 300 francs, which would be like her getting about $1,500 during that time. Now, this painting in May 1990, so and I think it was in New York that it sold at an auction. This painting sold for $82.5 million. So for today's equivalent, that's like $161 million that this painting sold for, making it the world's most expensive painting sold at that time in 1990. Now, since that record has been set again in 2017, when a painting by Leonardo da Vinci was sold for $450 million. So that's his Van Gogh's most expensive painting. All right, so there's gonna be two videos. We're gonna do one exploring the sunflower series, and we'll do another one in a different video exploring Starry Night. There's both gonna be, they're both fun. I think that the one for the sunflowers that we're going to do is good for all ages. Starry Night can be maybe a little bit more challenging for people that like to stay in the lines and don't want to get a lot of movement, but we can replicate this one well. Okay, so we're gonna break out that manila paper. This is a half sheet on the example. It depends on what your supplies are, but man, I love the large sheet if you can do that. And if not though, white cardstock on a regular size sheet would work just fine. The larger one just gives you lots of room to play and to get that movement in, okay? So, sheet of manila paper, and the oil, we're gonna use those famous oil pastels that I love. And the colors we're gonna use, you can choose some of the greens to have. And we've got the ones that are in the warm tones, the yellows. So what you start with, you may not have enough for everybody to use the same color, but like somebody could start out with the peach color, and then someone could have like this golden yellow, because we're just kind of starting the pots, the vases that they're in, and we're using similar colors. I mean, you can see that there's a lot of yellow in these, and almost the same color for the flowers as it is the table. So it's okay if a child ends up using the bright orange or the rust color, that they can put their own flair on it. It doesn't have to be the color that I'm using. So we're going to draw 3 curved lines. So we're gonna have it a little bit up from the bottom. Let's see, we'll get that in the screen. Like so. It's about in the middle, but it's not perfectly in the middle. So I'm going to do a little curved line. Then I'm gonna come above it. And if you want them to kind of have some kind of measuring, you could probably use about 3 fingers, because you don't want it to come all the way up here. We're keeping the pot or the vase lower because the main focus is going to be the sunflowers. Okay. We're gonna take the same line, but then we're going to do it larger. So about 3 fingers, and we're gonna curve it out like so. Then we're gonna come about 3 fingers up again, and we're gonna do this same size again, okay? So if you need to put marks for your student, then you could do that, and we're just gonna curve like that, okay? This is the post-impressionist, like the vase doesn't have to be sitting just so, like there's just texture and movement. So don't be afraid that your lines are wrong, because it may feel that way, but just keep working with it. Then we're gonna connect the top to the middle to the bottom. Same thing, top, middle, bottom, and there we have our vase. We're going to put our horizon line going through, and we're going to go vase, we're gonna jump over and come right there. All right, now we're gonna start adding the layers of the flowers. For time's sake, and so that the flowers look nice and full, you may wanna focus on, especially for the younger ones, maybe just putting 3 flowers in there and not doing, you know, I don't even know how many are in there, 7, 10, because then they can get lost with all of the flowers on there. But we do want to notice that, so let's gonna look at this one, that the flowers, some of them are hanging over, so we're just gonna do a little sketch mark of 1 circle. We're gonna come over here and do another circle, and then maybe come up and put 1 up here. Then we're going to add the leaves, or excuse me, not the leaves, the petals to the flowers. And if you look at the sunflower, and maybe you have the opportunity to get a real sunflower, but how large the inside of it is compared to the petals. So the petals don't have to be extremely large compared to the center. So you can choose a variety of yellows, and we're just gonna do those quick lines. I'm going to leave some space in between because I'm gonna come back with another yellow. I'm overlapping, I'm going over this one because we could say that this one is in front of this one or vice versa. It's coming over the pot, it's okay. We're just layering it on there. It's like we're making 3 suns coming out, right? Okay, now we're gonna come back and in between there, put another color. So I would encourage at least 2 colors because you can see the different, how the light plays off of it. And it doesn't have to be exactly every other one. Like, don't let them get caught up in that. All right, if they want to put a 3rd color, you could do that as well, depending on what level you're working with. You could come in and put, this is that golden, I think it's called golden brown, and you could put a few of those in there. We're going to be adding paint to the middle here, but I would suggest not putting, we're not gonna wake these up with water. We're gonna leave them like they are to really show those strokes with the oil pastel, and for time's sake, because when we bring out paint, then it takes up time. Okay, in a good way, but all right, we're gonna do some swirls. We're gonna do some more swirls. It's going over the yellow, and that's okay. And then you can put some other colors in there, swirl it around. We're gonna paint on top of this, but this will just kind of give us a base, a landing spot for our paint. All right, we're gonna put in a little bit of the greens. They can choose whatever color green they would like. Sunflower leaves, they could be hiding behind the flower. So that's what we can focus on, is that, all right, we're gonna have a leaf coming out right here. Just kind of a swoop down. And it depends on what side, how you're looking at it. Like when you look at it one way, it could look really broad. You could turn to another way and it could look kind of narrow. So you can show these examples in that this is an impression of what the sunflower looked at. All right, color it in. You go up and around your petals. And then we could put maybe like a green coming down, like we could see a little bit of that stem coming through. Maybe we see a little leaf up here. I can see one right there. This flower could be up higher. Like it's okay if yours doesn't look exactly like mine. Maybe this one's got, I can see a leaf falling down right here. Like so. All right. On most of his vases, they are lighter at the bottom. So take a white, make sure it's kind of cleaned off, and you can color in white on the bottom. This white is almost gone, I'm trying to use it all up. And I think it's fine that other colors are kind of coming out that are already on there. Just like with Morozzo and Degas, these are just like show the movement in there. I'm staying within these lines, but showing my movement. All right, and then we can color in the top of the pots, going around these leaves and petals. These are kind of monochromatic, meaning there's a lot of like the same color, mono one, that when we look at this, it's a lot of yellow. Like if you kind of squint your eyes and look at it, that's what you see. Okay. And then I would color the bottom, like whatever you have for the top here, you could use that. You could use that lightly down here. And again, just consider your time. You want to work on the vase and the sunflowers. He does have color above here, but for time's sake, I'm just going to leave it more of a neutral background since we already have this manila paper. And where is my pencil? Okay, well, in my examples, I lost my pencil. I signed my name right here. Oh, here's one. Okay. Well, I don't know if it's okay. Sign your name right here, because if you look closely at these, he wrote his name Vincent on this band. That pencil is not working. Oh well. Let's pretend like I just signed my name right there. And then I went back over it with a little oil pastel to kind of hide it. Can you see right here, it says Alley. So it's kind of hidden in there, just scooping across. I thought that was kind of a nice nod to Van Gogh. All right, now we're going to add the paint to the center of the flowers. Easy cleanup would be a paper plate and Q-tips. So this is brown with a tiny squirt of white on the side and black. So you could use the Q-tip as is, just like that. I'm gonna take a little bit off. You can just pull it and instruct them that we're not painting in this, like in strokes, we're gonna dab. So I'm gonna dab into my brown, and I can get a little bit of the white, but I'm not like mixing it on here. And then it's gonna come up, I would go to the one at the top first, and we're just going to dab inside of our sunflower. Got a little bit on the outside there, that's okay. Just swoop it up. Okay. So this is where I don't get too concerned with coloring the background, because this is gonna be the last step, and I want them to be able to get this texture and this experience of dabbing the paint on there, this bumpy center. Okay, so you're gonna do that for all three. Dab, dab, dab. So brown with a little bit of white. And then you could leave it like that, or you could put a little bit of black. You can see some of these have these very dark centers, and you can test it on your plate. And then just a few little dabs just to give some dimension, like so. And then you repeat those for the ones down here on the bottom. So that way, if they're not getting, it doesn't have to be fully painted, because we've got the oil pastels peeping through, and then I can even still see a little bit of the manila paper. On the smaller one, they may be able to paint all of it easily. So that is the sunflowers for Van Gogh. This one has more, and I wanted to point out, if you want to get your sunflower to look like it's hanging down but we can't see the front, then you're just going to omit that brown part, and you would just maybe do like your circle right here, and then you would have your leaves, your petals, I'm using all the wrong terms, I'm sorry, petals coming down like so to show. And then you could put a green with the arch, straight line at the bottom. That wasn't the green I used on there, but that's okay. And then like the stem kind of going back in there. That would probably be more upper level. For the younger ones, I would just concentrate on at least getting those 3. And like Van Gogh, repeat it. Try it again at home. You could use watercolor, you could use crayon, and then you could come back and, you know, maybe dab it with marker, mix different mediums and things with it. So there is Mr. Van Gogh's Sunflowers.